All right, you guys. So in this tutorial, what I want to do is go over how to create our stairs. In the previous tutorial, I went over how to create the cabinets. So let me go ahead and hide this here. This is kind of how far I got with these cabinets. I also went ahead and added my cabinets up here in the bathroom, and then I also added or finished off the shower inside the bathroom. I also added a little desk over here on this side, in this side of the building as well. So if you haven't done the cabinets yet, then I'd say stop this recording and go to the previous recording and watch that and complete the cabinets in both the kitchen and in the upstairs bathroom before moving on to this tutorial. If you did complete the cabinets, then the next step is going to be to create the stairs. Now, when we did the massings, when we started doing, when we took the massings and created the walls, let me hide this here. And we were kind of organizing where the spaces should be and which area should be the kitchen, which area should be dining room, and so on. In that tutorial, we went over the stairs and just massing out the stairs. And I believe I said that we were going to need somewhere around 19 feet of linear space to create the stairs. I want to dive into that, or I want to start there to kind of explain how did I get that number. Each step, so I did a little demo here. Each step has a riser and a tread. So the red part here is known as the riser for each step. And then the white grayish portion here is the tread. So essentially the tread is where we put our feet, and this is how we climb up the steps by stepping on the treads. Now, to determine the stairs, we do have to follow certain building codes. Now, the general rule when creating stairs is to follow what we call a 7-11 ratio. 7-11 ratio means that the riser should not exceed 7 inches in height. Therefore, the height of each step, okay, the height of the riser should not be more than 7 inches. So anything from 7 inches down, 6 inch, 5 inch, 4 inch step, 4 inch steps, that's all allowed. 11 inches is that no tread should be less than 11 inches. Okay, because anything less than 11 inches, it gets really difficult, or people kind of get feel as if their feet is kind of hanging off the tread itself. Okay, so the general rule of thumb is to stick to a 7-11 ratio. Now, the actual building code, there is a little bit more of a wiggle room depending on whether you're doing residential or commercial. And even then, whether it's interior or exterior, there's a little bit more wiggle room. And when I say a little bit, I'm talking about maybe an inch at max, depending on the situation. But 7-11 is a really good number to always try to stick to, okay? Because it's a comfortable number that we as a society have all kind of gotten accustomed to walking when we're walking upstairs. Perhaps in the past you realized, if you've kind of gone up certain stairs, we quickly, either consciously or subconsciously, we quickly realize that, wait a minute, there's something wrong with these steps. These are not normal steps. They're either the risers are too short, right? Or the risers are too high, or the treads are too deep. But we typically will always realize whenever the riser and the tread are kind of off, right? So that's why we try to stick to a 7-11 ratio. So that means if we're going to stick to a 7-11 ratio when creating our stairs, that means that we need to divide the height, the length from the first floor up to the second floor, divide that and get a number that gives us that is relatively close to 7 inches. Once we determine that, then however many steps that is, or how many times, how how many times we can divide that height by 7 inches, that's going to determine how many steps we're going to need. Once we know how many steps we're going to need, then we just multiply that by 11, and then that's going to tell us how long of a span that staircase is going to take up. If that doesn't make sense just yet, don't worry, because I'm going to walk you guys through it. So in order to create these stairs or determine these values, to determine these numbers, in the past and traditionally, we've always had to do the math. So if I know that the height from my first floor all the way up to the height of the top of my second floor is 12 feet, then I need to divide 12 feet by 7 inches, right? Feet into the different units. We'd have to convert the feet into inches, divide that by 7, and then reconvert it back into feet. It's not a whole lot of math, but SketchUp makes it a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is draw a line that goes from the top of the first floor. Okay, now I hid the floor, I hid the second floor so that I could actually see inside here, because if not, then it gets a little bit more challenging, right? So I'm going to go ahead and hide this second floor. But I do know that the top of my second floor is actually right here at that's aligned to the bottom of my walls. So I'm going to draw a line that goes from the bottom of my walls. I'm going to hit the up arrow key on my keyboard just to make sure it goes all the way this way, just to make sure that it goes straight down. And then I'm going to go ahead and click somewhere down here on the surface on my first floor. Okay. If I wanted to just verify, make sure, I would go ahead and measure this. 11 feet 6 is correct, because if you guys remember the way we constructed this, it was 6 inches for the floor, 11 feet for the walls, and then another 6 inches on top gave us 12 feet. So what I'm going to do is select the line that I just created, and I'm going to right click on the line. You have to move the cursor on the actual line. If you try to do this off to the side somewhere, it's not going to work. So you actually have to move the cursor over the line and then right click on the line, and then you'll get the command that says divide. Okay. Now, this is one difference in between PCs and Macs, unless they recently changed it, because I haven't used a Mac with SketchUp with the 2021 version, and I know this has been a big complaint. There's a chance they may have changed, they may have resolved it, but chances are that they didn't. And that difference is the little note that pops up. So notice right here, it says 20 segments length, and then it's the about 6 7/8. That little note pops up for PC users. It doesn't pop up for Macs. Okay. Now what I'm doing right now is I selected right click divide, and then I'm just moving the cursor up and down. I'm not clicking on the cursor. I'm not clicking on the mouse. I'm not clicking on anything. I'm simply moving the mouse up and down. And as I'm moving it up and down, I'm taking a look at the note. 15 segments, length about 9 3/16. So notice that little squiggly right in front of the 9. That's an approximation. It's because our unit's set to round up to the nearest 16th of an inch. But we can definitely get in much more detail to say a 32nd of an inch, a 64th of an inch, if we wanted to. But we don't want to get to that level of detail. So SketchUp is going to round up to the nearest 16th of an inch, but because 15 segments doesn't divide up evenly to the 16th of an inch, it gives us a little symbol of about, right? So about 9 3/16. If I go up 1 and I take it up to 16 segments, you'll see that there is no little about symbol, the little squiggly in front of the 8. That's because it divides up evenly. Okay. Now remember that I had said that we wanted to divide up the space to not exceed 7 inches, right? So whatever we divided up, it should not pass 7 inches. So what I'm going to do is move my cursor down slowly and see how far I can get before I pass 7 inches. So there's about 6 7/8, and 19 segments is 7 1/4. So if I go with 19 stairs, 19 segments, then each segment is going to be over 7 inches. And our goal is to try to be under 7 inches. So then that means I'm going to need to stop at 20 segments. So at this point, when I get to the 20 segments, oops, I'm going to go ahead and click on the cursor. Okay, so I do actually left click on the cursor. And now it doesn't look like anything has happened. The line is still selected. If I go ahead and click somewhere outside, and then I go back and click on the line, you will notice that the line is now divided into 20 segments. Okay. What I want to do is come all the way down here to the last segment. Okay. And this is the only segment that I really need. I just need to keep this last segment. So what I'm going to do is select the segment right above it and then delete it. Okay. Now the rest of these, I can go ahead and just double click or triple click, sorry. I could go ahead and just triple click on the line. It's going to select all of them and I'll hit the delete key. The reason why I say we just need this bottom one is because I just need something to reference when I build out my my steps. So I just need a height to reference so that I know how far to push pull. Okay. So what I'm going to do is draw a rectangle. Sorry, missing one step. We talked about the height, right? We talked about we need 20 segments or 20 steps, and each step is about 6 and 7/8. So if you do the math, what we would end up doing is dividing 20, multiplying 20 times 11, and that's going to give me the length of how many steps or how many steps my staircase is going to take up. So in other words, if I was to create 20 steps at 11 inches, at 11 inches each, right now, let's go this way like this, then it would eventually come up to, I believe, if 20 times 11 is 220, right? So what I can do is just pull a guide that goes out 220 inches. It just takes it right here. And now I'll just go ahead and measure that 18 feet 4, right? So that's how long my staircase is going to be, right? So when I told you over here earlier, when we were creating this the massing or the blocking out the stairs, I told you that we were going to need about 19 feet of linear space. Okay. That's how I ended up getting that number. All right. So let me go ahead and delete my guides. All right. So now that I have my height, I'm going to go ahead and just create a rectangle. Now the minimum width of any staircase is 3 feet. We can go any wider than 3 feet. So we go to 4 feet, 5 feet, and so on. But the minimum width for a residential staircase is 3 feet. When we get into commercial, there are other factors that go into the width of a staircase, predominantly how many people are on each floor. It needs to be able to accommodate the amount of people that are on that floor. And there's a whole chart within the building code that you kind of have to follow. Or there's a formula that you have to follow that's found on the building code, which is going to determine how wide each staircase needs to be. But if we're doing if we're doing residential, then the minimum width is 3 feet. So that means I'm going to draw my first step, which is going to be a rectangle, and it's going to be 3 feet for 3 feet wide, comma 11 inches, because the tread is going to be 11 inches. And there we have it. So now I have my surface, and I'm going to pull this up, right? Now I'm not going to type in 6 and 7/8, which is what that line that we divided said it was 6 and 7/8, because it was actually there was that little squiggly right in front, the about 6 and 7/8. So let's say I was off by a 1/16 of an inch, right? But I have 20 steps. So if I'm off by a 1/16 of an inch on each step, then it means after 20 steps, eventually I'm going to be off the overall, I'll be off about over an inch, right? And then that causes problems. So even though I might be off just by a little bit, since we're going to be creating 20 steps, that little bit is going to add up. And then eventually we're going to be off by a considerable amount. So since we actually selected that divide and we actually divided the segment, this line is actually, we take the tape measure, it's not exactly 6 7/8, it's about 6 7/8. So I can go ahead and push pull this up to that point right there. And then I'm going to triple click, 1, 2, 3, right click, make group. And now we have our first step. Once we have our first step, then I can go ahead and just delete this line, because from here on out, I could, if I wanted to, I could just use this step as my reference point. Okay. Now, before we move any further, I just wanted to kind of go over my idea as far as the staircase. My theory is that I'm going to go up, or the plan is to come down here to start here. So I align my window to that staircase. I'm going to start up here, and then I'm going to create my stairs that go up, and then I come to this landing, and then I turn the corner, and then I go up this way over here, and then land on the inside of my room, of my bedroom space up here. Right, that's the plan. Now I'm going to show you I'm going to show you kind of two ways of designing the staircase, whether or not you want to fill in the underneath spot versus having it hang off of the wall. So I'll show you those two methods. The other thing as well is that I'm purposely doing an L-shaped staircase, but if you have just a straight run staircase, so a staircase that just goes straight up, then you can pretty much just complete the same steps, just duplicate the same steps that I'm going to do from here to there, but just continue to duplicate those steps all the way to the end. All right. And if for whatever reason you have a U-shaped staircase, then you're really just going to take the scenario when we turn the corner here and apply it over here when you turn the corner and go the other in the other direction. Okay. So I have my first step. I'm going to go ahead and move it, grab it at this bottom corner, because I want that bottom corner to line up with that corner there of my wall. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is use the move tool and essentially copy this over. So what I'm trying to do is create that situation where these corners line up, right? The bottom corner of this new step lines up to the top right corner of the existing step there. So that's why I'm going to use the move tool, grab it from this corner. Now again, Control equals copy. So I'm going to tap the Control key on my keyboard. Again, if you're on a Mac, I believe it's the Option. And then I'm going to click right here. All right. Now, there's this nice little trick in SketchUp when it comes to the copy tool, where after you've copied it, if you don't do anything else, if you don't switch commands, and if you stay in that copy command, then all you have to do is hit the asterisk key. So if I'm looking at the keyboard, and I have the keypad on the right-hand side of the keyboard, it's the symbol that's above the number 9. If you look at the bottom right corner where it says distance, I have a little star there, or the asterisk. That's the asterisk symbol. So it's either above the number 9 on your keypad, or it is Shift and the number 8 if you're looking at the numbers at the top above the letter keys. Okay, so that asterisk symbol is going to mean times. So we're going to multiply that one command, that one copy command. We're going to multiply that by, and then I would enter a number. So I'm going to take a stab at it. I'm going to say 10 times 10, and I'll hit the enter key. And now it copied that one command 10 times. Okay. And there we have our first set of stairs. Let me do that one more time. So I'm going to use the move tool, click down here on the bottom right corner, hit the control to copy, and then I click. And I essentially complete the copy tool or the copy command. Okay, however, I'm still in the move tool. I haven't done anything other than just click on the corner, and then I'll hit the asterisk times 10, enter. And there we have it. Okay. So now, if I did this correctly, then it means that I can take this top one. Okay, and when I say I did it correctly, I'm essentially just trying to make sure, yeah. See, I didn't line up exactly over here on this side. I didn't line it up exactly where it should be. So I'm going to go ahead and just move it over. All right. And when I say it should where it should be, essentially my landing, I want it to be 3 feet, 3 feet by 3 feet, right? Because if I'm wider on this side, let's say I'm 3'6" on this side, it's 3'6" this way and 3 feet in the other way. So it's 3'6" this way and 3 feet in the other way. Then that would kind of mean, if I was take a look at this, if I was wider on this side, then it would mean that this staircase over here would also have to get wider. And then it's going to make everything look odd, right? If one size is 3 feet and then the other size is 3 feet, 3'6", it's going to make the staircase a bit odd. You could do it, but it's not really what I want to do. So for that reason, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm 3 feet, that my last step is 3 feet away from the wall. So I'm going to pull a guide 3 feet. And clearly I'm off by, let's see, I'm off by 4 inches. Okay. So what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is actually grab all of my steps, holding down the shift key, selecting all of them, and then just using the move tool. I'm going to move these over 4 inches, right? Now I am a little bummed out. I did want my window aligned to the corner of my step. If I really, really wanted to, then I can go ahead and double click on my wall and I can move this surface 4 inches, and I can either make the window bigger or I can move the window 4 inches, which would then mean I move this, select this surface and push pull this surface 4 inches. Not that big of a fix. I mean, not that time consuming. Okay, so now we have our stairs that go straight up. Now we have the last step. And what I'm going to do is actually edit this group here. So I'm going to double click, select this surface, and push pull it up to this wall. Okay. And now just to make sure, the width of this landing is 3 feet. And over here, it's also 3 feet. Okay. So now what I can do is, now what I want to do is create my stairs that go from here on up, right? Now, one of the things, we could either create a step over here. I can take this one, copy it, and rotate it. I could do that. I could create a new stair. Maybe I'll just go out 11 inches, hit the right arrow key, and then use the rectangle and go from there to there. Oh, actually, this wouldn't work because I don't know the height, right? Because it wasn't 6 7/8. So let's not go that route. Let's keep everything the same and let's actually just copy this. This way we don't make any mistakes in the width or the height. So what we're going to do is just select any one of these stairs. Doesn't matter which one. We're going to grab it here at the bottom right corner and then copy it. So hit the control key or options key on a Mac. And then I'm going to place it right here in this corner. Now I'll use the rectangle tool. I'm sorry, not the rectangle tool, the rotation tool. grab it at this bottom corner, click once, move the cursor out, click a second time, and then move the mouse. I could use this as a reference point. I could also just type in 90 degrees, enter. So now I have my first step that's turn the corner. And now I could do the same thing. I'll use the move tool, tap the control key to copy, and then place it. And now hit the asterisk times, and I'm going to go another 10 times 10. If you did one too many, or maybe you didn't do, what was I trying to say? If you did one too many, or if you didn't do enough, you could always either delete the ones that you no longer need, or you can, or you could just continue to multiply and do more. Okay. So this is where I land. It's actually, this would actually be my last. Oh, this is exactly what I mean, right? I multiplied one too many, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete that one. Now this one, I actually don't need because this is my floor. So let me unhide my floor, edit, unhide last. There we go. So notice that this is the actual floor itself, which is aligned to this step here, right? So what I'm going to do is select this one and delete this guy here. And then we'll just, for right now, we're going to go ahead and leave this step right there where it's at. Okay. And so that's exactly where I want it. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, there's something really bad going on here. We're going to be landing right here, which is technically the outside of my unit. And we're going to land right into a wall, right? So we're going to go ahead and make these edits, and we're going to add on to our space here on the outside and accommodate for this addition. Now, if your addition, or if your staircase lands inside and you have plenty of clearance and headspace, where when you're walking up, it's not going to hit the floor, or it's not going to hit a wall that's on the second floor, and you have plenty of clearance for the headspace, then you don't need to make any adjustments to the walls here or anything like that, right? But chances are you probably are going to have to make some sort of adjustments to your staircase to make it actually work. And so so you have that freedom and that flexibility to do so, to add on to the building mass if you wanted to, in order to make the staircase work so that you are going up the stairs and actually still staying inside the building as opposed to being outside the building. So if you need to add on for that reason, then you have that freedom to do so. So what I'm going to do first is create an opening inside this floor. Okay. Now, for the record, we're not done with our staircase just yet. All right. This isn't exactly a functioning staircase. But in order to do the next steps, I want to actually have the openings here, so that we know what we're doing and we know where we're going. And again, this is the common mistake. Make sure that you have head clearance from there to there, right? Right there, that's 4 feet 8. You need a minimum of 6 feet 8 inches or 80 inches, which is the same thing as 6 feet 8. You need a minimum of 80 inches, 6 feet 8 clearance, head clearance. If you don't, then you need to make a larger opening in the floor and pull or push that opening farther back until you have that clearance. I'm going to keep mine easy for myself and actually just make a huge hole. I'm going to go ahead and just make a large opening inside my floor here. Actually, on second thought, instead of making one big opening around my stairs, since we have such high ceilings, which, 11-foot ceilings, I'm just going to create an opening up until the point where I need to create the opening. So in other words, to meet that 6'8" clearance. And it'll be good too. This way I can show you guys how to go about creating that. So again, remember that if this is me and I'm 5'6", right? Imagine I'm, walking up these steps, right? And I'm going up. Eventually, I'm going to hit my head on the floor. So we need to create an opening for that. Now the code is that we need to be 6'8", at least from the bottom or from the top of the tread, okay, to the head, to the bottom of the floor. So what I'm going to do is, if we're going to be coming from the top of the floor here or from the bottom of the floor, I'm going to pull a guide that comes down 6'8". And that means that from this step here, the one I have selected here, that if I was to stand on this step, I would not meet the 6'8" requirement. So that's 6'4". I'm looking down here at the bottom right corner. That's 6'4". So that means my opening has to start aligned to this one step, right? Because if I do that, then that gives me 6'11", and therefore we meet that 6'8" requirement. So what I'm going to do is pull a guide. I'm just going to double click here on this vertical edge of that staircase. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay. And so I'm pulling guide right on the verticals. So, and I'm doing that by double clicking. And then I'm also going to pull or double click right here along this corner or along this edge where I make that turn, or so the vertical of the landing. Okay. And then I will do the same thing over here on this line back here. I'm going to double click. Now, the reason why I'm creating these is if I come on up over here, we could begin to see the outline of my stairs, right? There we go, down below, of the opening I want to make. So what I'm going to do is, in order to create that opening, I have to go into the actual floor and edit this group. So I'm going to double click. Now I can select the surface. Now I could use the line tool and essentially draw out the form or the shape in order to create my cutout. And now I could go ahead and select the surface, pull this down 6 inches, and I now have an opening in my floor, right? And that opening will allow me to step up these stairs, right? And continue going up. And so that once I hit this step here, that's where my opening begins. And then from here, I'll continue to step up and I will not have to hit my head on the bottom of the floor, right? At this point, I'm going to go ahead and delete my guides. Now, clearly we're still outside. So eventually I'm going to have to create an opening. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to create some walls that run right through, or some walls around the opening so that it encloses this space, and then create a doorway or an opening inside here as well. Okay, so we'll do that at the end. But now what I want to do is actually finish and complete my stairs. Now I mentioned in the beginning that I was going to show you how to create 2 different sets. So one, if you wanted to fill in the bottom of the stair, and then another one if you wanted them kind of hanging off the wall. I'm going to show you both. You can use whichever technique or strategy that you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and delete this bottom kind of form because I no longer need it. So this bottom here is going to have a massing. Okay. Now the way to do that is I'm going to select each step, including the landing, and then I'm going to right click and actually explode it. All right. Now, when I explode it, it's going to essentially tie all of these stairs together, right? Now, Up until this point, I've almost always have told you don't explode or don't allow objects to merge with one another. But in this situation, I wanted to create a massing underneath. Oops. I wanted to create a massing underneath so that, create a massing underneath, which would then turn this into one complete object. Okay. Let me see what the height is underneath here. 5'9". Why don't we add a little doorway inside here so that we could have some sort of storage space? Okay. So what I'm going to do is use the line tool, and I'm going to draw a line that goes all the way to the wall and then all the way up. And notice what happens. I ended up getting a surface, right? Even though I didn't draw a line all the way around here this way, I still got a surface just by drawing two lines. And the reasons for that is because I exploded these, SketchUp will automatically recognize these lines because right now we're in this kind of sticky line phase, right? Everything is attached to one another. And as we continue to model, SketchUp will continue to kind of merge everything. That's because these objects are exploded. If I was to do the same thing over here, I wouldn't have gotten a surface because each object is grouped. All right, so now what I'm going to do is take this, and since we're going to add a doorway and maybe add kind of storage space underneath, what I'm going to do is use the push pull, and I'm going to pull this 6 inches. Now I can't see it because it's going backwards, but I know that since I'm familiar with the push pull, I can just move the cursor that way and type in 6 inches. If I go from underneath here, I could actually see it from below, right? There's no need to actually move the cursor down inside here or move the camera down in there. I just wanted to show you guys. But I'm going to go ahead and move this in 6 inches, enter. Okay. So now what I have is essentially, let me see if I move the camera inside here. I essentially have a little wall inside here. Okay. Then what I'll do is select these outside lines and delete each one. Now I'm deleting the lines, and as I'm doing that, it's actually merging my surfaces. So I'm merging these right inside here. Or all, oops, don't want to do that. Merging each one just like that. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if you guys could see it, but every once in a while I have these little dots. I'll see these little dots, right? Oops, not there. They're really kind of hard to see. Okay. But essentially these little dots, I'm gonna go ahead and select the surface and hide it, represent these lines that are inside, right? So if you want a really clean model, you could go inside here. Oops, did I hide? Yeah, let me hide this. You could go inside here and delete each individual line if you wanted to have a clean model. Sometimes, depending on your visual settings, those little dots are going to really stick out and can be really annoying when it comes to like showing clients, talking to clients that are going to ask, well, what are those dots? So I get into the habit of cleaning it up. If you decide to leave it, it's fine. I'm not going to mark you down for it. So I'll go to edit, unhide, last. Okay. Now I said that I wanted to add a little door inside here. So I'm just going to use my guides. I'll go maybe 3 inches out this way. And let's go 32 inches. Oh, that's really too thin. Let's go with a 28-inch door. Okay. And then we're going to go maybe, oh, just line it up to this bottom step there. And then I'll create a rectangle here. Select this, push pull, and I'm going to go in 6 inches. And I still get the surface on the inside, but if I select this line, I should be able to delete it. There we go. So what I did right now is I went 6 inches in and I knew that my walls are 6 inches, but it still didn't delete the backside. And sometimes that happens. So if that's the case, then I could either select the surface and delete it, but I'm still left with that bottom line. So I just select that bottom line and delete it anyways. And there we have it. All right, I could go ahead and triple click this, right click, make group. And then if I wanted to, I would create a little door inside here, pull this out 2 inches, group it, and then move it in 3 inches. And there we have it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and delete my guides. So that's how we would clean up the stairs to have a bottom underneath it. But if you wanted to just show a set of stringers, right, which is essentially the bottom portion here, then what I'm going to do is we're going to start off in the same, we're going to start off the same way. Okay. And sorry, we're going to start off the same way, select each step. See, this top one is going to be a little annoying because it's just slightly below. It's just slightly below my floor. That's okay. I'm going to select each step, holding down the shift key and clicking on each one. And then I'm going to right click and explode. So now these are essentially stuck together. And then I'm going to use a tape measure. And I'm just going to go from one corner to another corner. It doesn't matter which step I go to the bottom corner of, but I'm going to go bottom corner to bottom corner. And that's going to give me a guide, right? And now what I'm going to do is draw a line from the bottom corner there. And it's not going to be to the bottom corner of this stair, but it's going to be to the bottom corner of the floor. So I'm going to go ahead and click right there. And it's going to generate these individual surfaces, right? Now, again, it generated these surfaces because this line ran and touched these corners here. These were exploded. So all SketchUp just kind of merged everything together, with the exception of this bottom line over here, right? Over here, I have these surfaces and these lines, but I'm missing the one line that goes back that's going to close off that surface so that I have that, so that I can have that, or so that that surface can be generated. Next, what I'm going to do is take this surface, use the push pull, and just pull this over to that side. And I can continue doing that with all of my triangular surfaces. Remember that the push pull will also remember the last input that you inserted. So I can actually just double click and it's going to push pull it that direction. So it's just double click on the cursor. But again, if for whatever reason that doesn't work, you could always just do it manually. Click, move the cursor out, click, move the cursor out. Okay. And now we have our stairs. At this point, what I can do is begin to clean up my stairs with the lines and delete the lines I no longer need. So I don't need these lines here. I don't need these lines right here. Let me see. And I can go ahead and just select the lines I don't need. Oops. I'm going to Command Z, which is delete. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete. Sorry, Command Z is to undo. What I'm doing is selecting each line and I'm using the delete key on the keyboard to delete each line. And once I get to the bottom, I can triple click and make group. Actually, no, I can't, not yet. So there is a mistake here, now that I think of it. Essentially, this is a bad connection. This stringer, the support, really needs to be connected down here, like so. And then we're going to go up. There we go. Now we have this surface. Remember that we had to go up because this line, this vertical line, is part of this group. And when an object is grouped, SketchUp doesn't recognize it. So SketchUp sees this, right? I'm going to do that. So that's why I need to draw the line that goes up. Use push, select the surface, push, pull over here. Now, how does that impact? That just, it's perfect. It actually just perfectly goes right there to my door. So now I'm going to select the line, delete it, select this one and delete it. And then I'm going to triple click, 1, 2, 3, right click, make group. And there we have it. So now we have a set of stairs, no bottom portion. It's just kind of hanging with a, what we call a stringer, okay? So now we have the steps. We're not entirely done yet. We still need to add a handrail, okay? Because we don't want anyone falling off. But before we do that, what I want to do is go ahead and enclose. Actually, no, let's jump to the handrail. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that portion first. Actually, we're going to run into problems either way. So I'm trying to think which is the most effective way. We can do the handrail that goes up. But eventually, once the handrail reaches here, we're going to need to go into the room and then down and bring that handrail down. Actually, we don't have to go that close. All right, let's go ahead and add the handrail. So when we add a handrail, we have to think, what is this handrail going to be attached to, right? We have to attach the handrail to something. So we're going to attach it to some posts, and those posts, these like small metal posts are going to have to come down and be bolted to the ground, or in this case, to the actual treads, okay? So we're not going to add a pipe or a handrail right along the edge of the stairs. We're going to add the handrail 2 inches in from the edge so that it gives us space when we pull the posts down from the handrail. It gives us space on each tread to be able to attach a post to it, okay? So what I'm going to do is, starting off, well, the plan of action, I'll let you guys know. The plan of action is to use my guides to figure out where to place my handrail. And then I'm going to draw the handrail on the ground here, kind of following the contours or following each step. Once I have the line for that, I'll go ahead and move that line up where it needs to be. And then I will attach a pipe or a circle surface and then use the follow me so that the circle can be push-pull along the line that we end up creating. And that's going to give us the effect of a pipe. So I'm going to start off with the tape measure tool. And I'm going to go from one corner to another corner. It doesn't matter which corner. I just have to go from one corner to another corner. And that's going to give me this guide. Okay. Now that I have this guide, I can use the move tool, select the guide, and then move this 2 inches in. I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side. So I'll use the tape measure, go from one corner to another corner, select the guide and use the move tool. I'm going to go in 2 inches. Okay. Now we do have a problem here. If I'm going to be drawing a line that goes from here on up, and then as it goes up, it's going to turn the corner. The problem is that I need to figure out where is it going to turn the corner. And when I look at this closely, these two lines do not actually intersect, okay? And that's just how staircases work and the handrails work. So we actually need to be able to go up this guide and then find a point where they intersect in space and draw a line that goes straight up to be able to connect to this guide, so then I can continue on that way. Now, the way we figure out where these two intersect is if we move this line 2 inches in this way and 2 inches in this way, then we know where these two, we know that they'll intersect 2 inches in one direction, 2 inches in the other. So if I pull a guide, 2 inches in this direction, 2 inches in that direction, essentially at this intersection point, I'll hit the up arrow key. At that intersection, or at that point, that's where this guide intersects with that guide. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that this line here goes all the way up past this guide. And then I'll just draw my line, use my line tool, go from this point. So I'm going to draw a line straight down. So wherever this line intersects with this guide, I'll pull a line here. It goes all the way to the bottom step. And then I'll do the same thing over here. I just hit the space bar to end that line command. I'm going to go from here all the way up to my last step, which is actually right there. I'm going to come back to this point. I no longer need that portion of that line, and I no longer need that portion of the line. So essentially, this is the path for my handrail. Go ahead and delete my guides. And there we have it. So handrails are placed 36 inches above the treads, which means I'm going to move this line up. So I'm using the move tool. I'm going to go up, hit the up arrow key, and I'm going to go up 36 inches, enter. Okay. Now this handrail isn't just floating, it needs to come down. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a line at this endpoint, hit the left arrow key. I'm going to go up 4 inches and then come straight down to the floor, just like that. Okay. And then I'll do something similar up here at the top. And I'm going to use the line tool. Make sure I go from the end there. Make sure I use the arrow keys on my keyboard. So I'm going to hit the right arrow key, go 4 inches, and then straight down. So now we have the line work for my handrail, right? From start all the way to finish down here. So what I'm going to do is use the circle tool. So the letter C on the keyboard, or I could come over here. We're accustomed to seeing the rectangle here, but if you select the pull down, you'll see the circle. And I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to click once, move the cursor out. It's not a click and drag. It's just click once, move the cursor out. And down here in the bottom right corner, it's asking me for the radius. Okay. So if I want a 2-inch diameter, 2-inch diameter handrail, the radius is half of the diameter. So if I want 2 inches thick diameter pipe, then the radius would be 1 inch. So then I'm going to go and pull this out 1 inch, enter. And now I have the surface here. And again, this is where we're going to be using this follow me tool. We used it in the tutorial for the cabinets. We can go ahead. I'm going to show you guys the long version of using the follow me so that if you ever need to apply it for something else, you know how it works. And then I'll go back and I'll show you kind of the shorter version of doing it. We go up to tools, follow me, and then select the surface. Try to select the surface. What happened here to my surface? Let me delete or hide my stairs. There we go. So let's go ahead. I think the group was getting in the way of my surface, so I wasn't able to select the surface. So if I go to tools, follow me, I can then select the surface and then move my cursor. Why is it not? There we go. Move the cursor to follow this line. Right. Now I have to kind of be very careful of how I move the cursor, because it kind of has to follow the line that I want, or else it's not going to work, right? And so then it's going to follow that line and get to, oops, get to the end. Notice that I'm already having trouble with it because I have to kind of move the camera around and so on. So that's kind of the theory behind the tape measure tool. I'm sorry, the follow me tool. The faster way of doing that is if we actually pre-select our lines before we go into the tools follow me. So I can go ahead and just triple click on the lines, go up tools, follow me, and then select the surface that I want it to follow. And there you have it. It'll automatically do it for us. So I can go ahead and just triple click, right click, make group. Okay. Now, what does happen is inside the group, I still have that line. So if I go inside, that line still exists. So I need to make sure to delete that or else objects can accidentally get attached to that line. So I'm going to hide my guardrail or my handrail. Then I'll triple click that line again and use the delete key on the keyboard to delete it. At this point, let's go ahead and bring everything back. So I'm going to go up to edit, unhide all. And now we have our handrail. Okay. Now the handrail itself is still kind of floating, right? So we need to add what we call balusters or the vertical pipes. So I'm going to come out 2 inches over here on this side of the step, 2 inches over here on this side, and then draw a circle, which is 1 inch. Okay. Actually, let's go smaller. I'll do a circle. So I hit the letter C or come on up here. Instead of 1 inch, we'll go 3/4 of an inch. So it's slightly smaller. Okay. Then I'll use the push pull and I'm going to pull this up 3 feet. So I'll go 36 inches. And, oh, I'm going to have to eyeball it. So I'll select this and I'll move this up. And this point, I will have to kind of eyeball there. And it's because it's at an angle. So it's a bit challenging to find out where exactly. But as long as it's hidden inside this pipe, we should be fine. So now I'll go ahead and triple click, 1, 2, 3, right click, make group. And I'm going to select this, use the move tool, copy, and then we'll be able to use our asterisk tool again. So we're going to go ahead and click, hit the asterisk times. So we're going to multiply this. I think it's 8 more times. So I'll hit 8, enter. And there we go. Now give me 1 too many over here. So I'll go ahead and delete this. Now, the one downside about this is that if we do turn a corner, we're going to have to do this part all over again. So that means pull another guide, use a tape measure. We're going to go 2 inches this direction, 2 inches that direction, and then create a circle that is 3/4 of an inch, or so that the radius is 3/4. And then I'll use the push pull. Now remember, it's not 36 inches exactly, so I'm just going to kind of eyeball it a little bit. Make sure it just goes through the pipe. Triple click it and make it a group. Don't forget that part. Oops. And then I'll go ahead and use the move tool. Copy by hitting the control key on the keyboard and clicking on that corner. And I'm going to multiply times, I believe it's 9. Enter. And there we have it. Oops. Let's see. Go ahead and edit, delete guides. Yep. And there is our staircase. We're not entirely done yet. We are done with the staircase itself, but we have this issue. So I'm going to go ahead and create an opening inside here. Okay. That is going to allow me to keep this portion open. So I'm going to go 6 inches from this corner. I could actually even double click along this edge. It's going to give me a guide, and I could push pull this so that I could click right there where it intersects. And for this, you know what? I think I'm going to take it up to the roof. Take this opening all the way up to the roof. And I'll show you why. So if we were to line it up there, let's go ahead and double click. So if I was to create a 7-foot height, which is aligned to this door, which you can do. It's entirely up to you. At this point, it's a design decision. I'm going to double click into the walls to edit the walls, use the rectangle tool, create the shape of the opening. That's going to separate this surface from this surface, and then push pull this 6 inches. There we have it, right? Edit, delete guides. Now the reason why, let's go in this way. You know what? Yeah, maybe let's keep it. We'll see. Let's leave it this way and then I'll take a look at it afterwards. So now what I want to do is create a set of walls that's going to go around here. So I'm going to use the tape measure. I'm going to go 6 inches up this direction from this edge, 6 from this direction, 6 from this direction. I'm going to go ahead and hide my incomplete cubes. And I already know that this wall is 6 inches, and so is this one back there. So I'll go ahead and using the rectangle tool, and go from one corner to the next and just complete kind of the outline shape of my walls. Then you go from this corner to that corner there. If you need to create a guide for yourself or more guides for yourself, by all means, go for it. Then I'm going to delete the line that separates the surfaces, so that in the end, I essentially have one kind of L-shaped surface. And then I'll push pull this up to this side right there. Triple click, 1, 2, 3, right click, make group. And then I'm going to select the roof here, double click, draw a line right that goes straight up, and that's going to divide up this surface. Then I'll use the push pull, and I'm going to pull this out this way. Do the same thing over there. Use the line tool, I'm going to go straight up, select the surface, and push pull this over just like. Why isn't that working? Let's go ahead and do that again, just like that. Let's go ahead and delete our guides, edit, delete guides. And now let's go ahead and take a look. So essentially, someone would be able to come up here and be covered, be able to look up and be covered. Now, this would be a good opportunity actually for a skylight or maybe even some windows. So I'd probably go back and add some windows over here maybe. But in any case, that's our staircase, right? It's in an inside of an enclosed space. It's covered. I could come down here and then I could actually come down the stairs, turn the corner, and continue going down the stairs. Okay. Now I know this is lengthy, and following these steps can be difficult, especially because each one of you guys will probably have a different staircase. And so, you know, without being there and helping you individually one-on-one with these kind of custom or with the specific cases that you have, you're going to have to really really look at this tutorial and see what applies to your design. Okay. Take this tutorial step by step, take it slow, pause it until you've completed that one kind of section before you move on. All right. And as always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Good luck, guys.